Now to the really big, serious challenge before the Aam Aadmi Party. And it's about its law minister, Somnath Bharti. Women's groups are now petitioning the Arvind Kejriwal government saying that the law minister must be removed. Is the Aam Aadmi Party in danger of losing its moral high ground if it doesn't act against Mr Bharti? Videos have now been released where Somnath Bharti can be heard on tape labeling the women from Uganda and Nigeria as prostitutes and also talking about how it was his crowd that ran after them and helped catch these women before handing them over to the police. In this video, you can also hear the N-word used by one of the residents in the area for the African people.
जैसे लड़कियों ने हमें देखा वैसे ही वहां से सब अंदर की तरफ दौड़े इसी गली में। और जो पुलिस वाले हैं वो हमसे कम तेज दौड़ रहे हैं, तो हम लोगों ने दो लड़कियां पकड़वा ली। पुलिस वाले पकड़ करके उसको वैन में बिठा लिया।
आप कहना चाह रहे हैं रेड हैंडेड पकड़ा आपने?
हाँ जी, रेड हैंडेड पकड़ा। पुलिस ने रिफ्यूज कर दिया रेड करना प्रेमाइसेस को, कहते हैं कि हम नहीं रेड करेंगे और हम सब लोगों को छोड़ करके ऐसे कहते कानून मंत्री की रक्षा करेंगे।
4 पुलिस वाले मेन एंट्रेंस पे गए हैं, निगरों की गाड़ी अंदर नहीं आने दे रहे, उनको बोला गया है कि अंदर नहीं आइए।
The big challenge before the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi is to do with its law minister Somnath Bharti. Now a number of prominent women's activists and academics are beginning an online petition to demand that the Aam Aadmi Party must act against their minister whom they believe has been both racist and sexist. Will the Aam Aadmi Party lose the moral high ground in the public debate today if it does not act against Somnath Bharti? Joining us on the buck stops here, Yogendra Yadav, senior leader of the Aam Aadmi Party, and with me in the studio, Kavita, Krishnan, well-known activist who has been spearheading this online petition. Yogendra ji, before I come to you, I will ask you to just give us 2 minutes to hear from Kavita why she believes Somnath Bharti actually must be removed as law minister. Kavita, you've started this petition. Explain to us why. There is now a video available and we have all heard it where Somnath Bharti is actually telling the media that the crowd did help in what he says पकड़वाने में हमने मदद कराई 2 लड़कियों की पहले और फिर 3 लड़कियां टैक्सी में आई. He's of course referring to the African women in question here. Why are you disturbed as a women's activist today?
You see, he says that, and before that he describes them generically as being Africans, Nigerians, Ugandans, etc. Clearly, he doesn't have any specific name. He doesn't know who he is. It's not a specific criminal he is seeking to catch. He comes there, he says, I saw these African women on the street and they began fleeing in terror. I asked my supporters to follow them, catch them, hand them over to the police. And then some 3 women came in a cab. I asked my supporters to catch them, hand them over to the police. Now, I'm saying you are endangering the... And he also uses the word कि वो वैश्याएं हैं और local माँ बहन बेटी के लिए they are a threat. Now, my point is that if you give a call to an already inflamed and agitated crowd, you tell them these women are the opposite of माँ बहन बेटी. Go catch them, hand them over. You are putting them in a situation of danger. This is a criminal endangerment of these women.
What is your argument to Yogendra Yadav today, who is known for being a progressive voice in our public debates?
Our argument is that whatever the situation, okay, people's local concerns may be important there about drugs, possibly about prostitution. People may be very angry. On the other hand, Somnath Bharti had also been told by local activists just 2 days before that about the concerns about the racial divide and racial hatred and incidents of even violence. He had been asked to intervene. Now, his job as a minister, the government's job, and I would say any responsible political party's job is not to only look for a policing or moral policing solution, but actually to enter, engage in a debate, engage in a dialogue, try to dispel prejudices there, try to de-escalate the entire situation
let me take this to
and address things sensibly. This has not happened. Let me just add one more thing. On 19th, even after this incident, Mr Somnath Bharti was allowed to go there by his party, by the government, once again address an give an extremely provocative speech asking that vulgar people who do naked dance should be thrown out of the country. Okay, this is again something he has done on 19 January. This repeated escalation has led to a situation where the Africans in that area are in extreme terror. I say this cannot be the answer.
Let me take this to Yogendra ji. Yogendra ji, you have said on my own show that you want to make it clear that you do not defend any kind of racism, you do not defend any kind of racist slurs. You have expressed concern over the language used by Somnath Bharti. But Kavita, Krishnan and many other activists, all of whom you have great respect for, I know, are saying that this is moral policing. This goes beyond the debate around the dharna, that this is sexism, that this is a kind of anti-women stance that labels women as good or bad. Now, isn't this terribly disturbing to you, Yogendra ji? And how can you justify the continuation of Somnath Bharti as Law Minister?
But I'd like to begin by saying that I've got a letter from Kavita, who is not just a friend, someone who I've deeply admired for her commitment, for her integrity, and other colleagues who have signed this letter. I've been signing such letters in the past, and these are all people who I personally respect enormously. And I think any input coming from them should be taken extremely seriously by a party like my party, and I value what they are saying. Number two, Kavita has sent a video link with that. Because it came from her, I immediately checked that video link. It does give reasons for someone to look into the matter. Unfortunately, that video is not conclusive about anything. While Kavita says, Somnath Bharti says that these African women do X, Y, and Z, that's actually not what he's saying in that video. He says, people come to me every day and they said that. That's all he's saying there. We do not know. This is a serious matter. And as I've said earlier too, racism in any form cannot be tolerated whatsoever.
Okay.
All I'm trying to suggest to my friends is that Delhi government has instituted a judicial inquiry. Sorry, not Delhi government, the LG. So, which is to say, it's not my government which has chosen a judge. It's not our government which has appointed it. It's been appointed independently. And in the terms of reference of that commission is looking into the entire incident, including the role of the minister. If we find that the minister has done any wrong, believe me, he would not be spared.
Yogendra ji, the question, if I may interrupt you, that
conclusive evidence.
Yes. You're saying the video you don't find conclusive, but the question that would logically arise is that you were not willing to wait for the inquiry to complete its job when it came to the SHO in question. So why are you giving the minister more rope than you gave the police officer?
For one specific reason, Barkha, the underlying principle here is someone who can influence the course of investigation must not be sitting on that chair when the investigation is on. Now, you know that unlike any other law minister in the country, Delhi's law minister has absolutely zero influence on Delhi police, which is going to investigate the matter, and the inquiry is not under Delhi government. So, Somnath Bharti's continuing presence in that position does not in any way affect the possible independent inquiry, which an SHO staying in that police thana can.
Okay,
that's the only distinction of principle involved.
I'm going to allow Kavita to come in there. Kavita, on Yogendra Yadav's point that the video is not conclusive, that he believes there are question marks raised, something that, by the way, Prashant Bhushan also said on this program last night. Is that a satisfactory argument that if there is evidence against the minister, there will be action?
No, I want to say this, that about that video once again. Let me just ask Yogendra one thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very clear from that video. Yes, he says people came to me with a complaint, but he acted on the complaint. And he says very clearly in that video that he asked his supporters to chase down African women who were fleeing. What evidence does he say he had against those African women? What were they, even if they were prostitutes? Let's accept for a minute, let's accept they were all sex workers.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it all right to ask an agitated crowd to chase down sex workers? Or women you perceive as sex workers, you say, and he uses the word, they are vaishya, they are a threat to local ma behan beti.
Yeah.
I can tell you as a woman that, you know, the sheer fear that one feels in a situation where a crowd views you as immoral, views you as something which is stigmatized, views you as a sexual other, is a situation of sexual danger. It is a situation of endangerment. And I think that this is absolutely clear in the video. I don't think this is about some academic nuance about racism.
May I
although the N-word is used on that video, it is used by one of Somnath Bharti's supporters. But I'm saying I'm not. My argument is not about
elaborate on that to Yogendra ji. You hear a supporter in that video from the back using the N-word, which now nobody uses for African people, for people of color anywhere in the world. And that bothers you, of course, as well. It is an undoubted racist slur, not used by the minister but by somebody else in that video. Yogendra ji, one is the use of that N-word you can hear in the background. We're of course deliberately not using it, but you know what I mean. The other thing is, I've also seen the video.
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, I've also seen the video in that the minister is saying कि हमारे लोगों ने दो लड़कियों को पकड़ने में मदद की. He uses something, a word like that, कि पकड़वाया और पुलिस को दिया. पकड़वाया, not पकड़ा but पकड़वाया. Let's be accurate. पकड़वाया और पुलिस को दिया. Yogendra ji, Kavita's argument is that this means that it was actually the mob that chased them down, and this, as a woman, even I want to say, I'm not sure that Kavita and I, or even you, believe that sex workers, even if these women were sex workers, should be rounded up by a mob or even by the police.
Barkha, there is no doubt that someone who is engaged in sex work is a victim. She's not the culprit. That should be the law. That's a normal position. So we do not view her as someone who's causing it. I mean, if that is the case, she is clearly a victim of a certain system in which she is involved there. And yes, I heard the N-word there. That disturbs me. Unfortunately, in that video, it's not clear who is saying that. And that's why you need some inquiry. That's one incident about which there are many witnesses. There is a footage. There are all kinds of things. The only difference between what Kavita is saying and what I'm saying at the moment is there is no difference of perspective. There is no difference of what is right, what is wrong. There is only a difference that Kavita believes that that evidence is conclusive. I'm not sure if it's conclusive. I think there are many things unanswered. And I would plead that let one and there's a judge who's looking into it, judge appointed by LG, not by our government. Let a judge say what the entire evidence amounts to, because there has been enormous evidence of the other kind as well. I don't want to pit one evidence against another. All I'm saying is let someone look into the entire evidence. There is something else that Somnath ji has done which we have not defended one bit. And we have not said of any inquiry looking at it, which is his expression, the expressions that he has used over the last 2 or 3 days.
His language, which is a huge problem.
We have said these are which is a problem. We have said in no uncertain terms that there is indiscretion. This is not an acceptable language. You cannot use it for your political opponents. And I once again apologize to Arun Jaitley ji, to others who he has named. I think this is completely unacceptable language. So on one aspect, we are offering no defense whatsoever. On the other, we are saying, please let us have an independent investigation, which is already on. Let us wait for that. There is no way the minister can influence that investigation. Once it comes, you would see Aam Aadmi Party taking an action, which is what all of us would like to see, provided the independent report says that there is an element of racialism, that there is a prejudice against women, or the minister has violated whatever his or his remit is.
Okay.
Let us get that thing. That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay, last comments from both of you. Now, Kavita.
I'm saying it's absolutely clear from the video, and Yogendra ji in his comments hasn't rebutted that Somnath Bharti was there that day with the police team and a crowd of supporters seeking a raid of whoever he perceived in the area as being Africans, especially African women, engaged in prostitution and drug trade.
Yes.
My point is, when there is this kind of moral outrage against prostitution, why should this kind of midnight raid have been the intervention? Why should this kind of moral or other forms of policing be the intervention? The intervention should have been a social intervention there. The intervention should have been to dispel, because he was well aware. This is a minister who had been told by members of his own. He's talking about local persons' complaints. Local persons on the other side had also told him about the attacks on African persons in that place, or about stone pelting.
So why wasn't it a different kind of intervention?
How come he, instead of dispelling those prejudices and intervening there socially,
you believe he deepened the prejudices? He reinforced the prejudices.
Stoked up prejudices on one side and instigated violence on the other.
Okay.